is raining men. Hallelujah. Hey, hey. Hey y'all, it's your girl Cecilia and welcome back to my channel. So today, it is the 2nd day of February, and I figured, well, it's gonna be the 3rd day when I post this, but like whatever. But what we're doing today is that I am going to tell you guys basically what I read in January. So my January wrap up. So I read 12 books in January, which is pretty damn good. I'm gonna say. I didn't read any 1-star books, which is great. I read 2 2-star books. I read 2 3-star books. I read 5, count them, 5 4-star books. I read 1 4.5-star book, and I read 2 5-star books. So pretty great reading month, if I'm gonna say for myself. I'm going to go through all these books in order that I read them, and yeah, that's it. So on January 1st, I actually finished Interview with the Vampire Claudia story, and this is by Anne Rice, and I think it was adapted by Ashley, 3 names. She got 3 names, that's all I remember. But I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I do recommend don't read this graphic novel if you haven't either at least seen the movie Interview with the Vampire or at least read the first book in this series, like Interview with the Vampire, or with the vampire, with the vampire. But basically, I really enjoyed this graphic novel series. Again, don't read it if you haven't seen that, but also don't read it if you don't like Claudia. Like, Claudia is one of my favorite characters, and I love her so much. I find her story very interesting, and basically this just kind of this graphic novel just details her life as a vampire, and when Lestat and Louis meet her and turn her into a vampire and shit goes weird. But I really liked it. It added some extra scenes which I thought were really interesting to Claudia's development. But it was a good little addition to the series, and the artwork was gorgeous. It was so pretty. Like, each panel was beautiful. It really brought out like the Victorian vibe I was getting, because they just like a lot of the story takes place around 1700 1800, so I thought it was really interesting how that was done. Number two, the second book I read, I finished on January 5th. I wrote down each day finished, so I'm gonna say that. I finished on January 5th, and it's Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, and I gave this 3 stars. I definitely didn't like it as much as I liked the first book. The first book, I think I gave 5 stars. I think so. But this book just wasn't doing it for me. I don't know what it was. Maybe because I listened to it mostly on audiobook, and I guess that wasn't like the right way to consume it, but I just kind of felt like it was alright. I'm gonna put a spoiler warning up because I want to explain, so I'm just gonna have like a big spoiler area somewhere on the screen, and once that goes away, and I'll probably put the timestamp down below when I stop talking about spoilers. But I didn't like when Nehemia died. I thought, like, okay, Nehemia can actually be a very vital character, and then she's killed off. Like, I understand why she's killed off. Doesn't mean that I like it, but I understand why she was like dead, you know?
They done killed little Mel now. That's why I hate know if they killed little Mel. Little Mel, get up. No, he did.
I did really like the aspect when Dorian got magic. That was I really enjoyed that, because I felt like if he didn't get magic, I feel like Dorian after that was going to be kind of a pointless character, kind of like a failed love interest. But since he got magic, I thought that was I thought that was an interesting plot point in development. So the next book I finished on January 10th, and that is Rosemary's Baby by Era 11. I gave this 3 stars as well, and there's a difficult reason why I gave this 3 stars. Like, the first half, I was hating the book. I thought it was so boring and so pointless. So Rosemary's Baby, if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, it's like a classic horror literature. It's basically, there's this woman named Rosemary, and she, man named Guy, yeah, his name's Guy, fuck. They move into this apartment complex. They've really been, they've really wanted to move into here. They had a wait list and everything, because it's like, I think it was the Bramford, and I was like, oh, the Bramford, we gotta move in there. But basically, they both move in, and everything starts going well. She's trying to get, she just really wants to have a baby, and she's just a housewife. She's just kind of mingling around, and they meet their neighbors, who I fucking can't remember the names, but they meet their neighbors. They're like an older couple, and at first Rosemary gets kind of a weird vibe from them, but she's like, okay, no, it's gonna be all fine. And so as things goes on, things start getting very, like, slowly start to get sinister and like horror-y. And there's a section where you do realize, like, Rosemary starts to put all the pieces together. Rosemary, of course, does get pregnant at some point. It's not a spoiler. And you see her pregnancy through the story, and it's very interesting because the author, he is a man, but he does comment on basically pregnancy horror, and the horror of like, oh, my baby's not alright, oh, I'm doing something wrong, and all these things. And I think it was very interesting as someone who's never been pregnant and doesn't want to get pregnant. I thought it was interesting the way that everything was kind of handled. Once we got to the scene where Rosemary started to put all these pieces together, shit got crazy, and I was there for it. Like, that ending, ooh, I really liked the end of the book. First part, not so much, but the ending, ooh, yes. So I wanted to give it 4 stars, but I was like, since I hated the beginning so much, I downgraded to a 3. I might reread the book since I now know of that aspect, and I think that I'll like it more upon reread, if that makes sense. So on January 11th, I finally finished Monstress Volume 1. I gave this 4 stars. Why it took me so long? I started in December, but when I went to go home for Christmas break, I left it in the dorm. So I wasn't able to finish it. I kind of forgot that I had it there, and I was like, you know what, let's just finish it off in one night, and I did. So I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I can give you a synopsis because it's kind of lost on me as well. It's confusing, but in a good way. Like, I want to figure out this world. The art style was beautiful. It was really pretty, and that's all I can say about it at the moment. Like, I'm still confused about what happened, but I enjoyed it. I like the characters, and they did have really funny dialogue, but yeah, that's it. 4 stars. I liked it. And I read, I finished on the 14th, I read The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. I gave this 2 stars. This book was just like, it was boring. So basically, I've noticed in horror, well, what the main character point of the story is that there is this guy, and at first at the beginning of the book you see he is older and he has his family and all this stuff, and they start telling each other like scary stories or something, and he has to leave the room because he has been traumatized by this event that has happened in his life, and he decides, like, I'm going to write out this story because I don't know how much time I have left, but I need people to understand what has happened to me. This is a very description oriented horror. Like, the horror, not a lot I feel like creepy happens until the end, or nothing horrific happens until the end, but it's a lot of description horror. And I've realized that I don't like that. Like, I feel like I need more to happen. Like, I'm fine, I like descriptions, knowing how creepy and eerie something is, but if all the horror is just the descriptions of things, I'm not vibing with it. I'm like, nah, I'm fine with that. I can get why this is kind of like a horror classic, and I understand it was probably revolutionary for the day, something like that, but it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. But yeah, 2 stars. But on January 15th, I actually finished the audiobook of Rosemary, the Hidden Kennedy Daughter, and this is by Kate Clifford Larson. I gave this 4 stars. This is a documentary.
Bitch, what?
About Rosemary Kennedy, who was, of course, John F. Kennedy's, like, sister, and basically she was kind of hidden off to the side, and why this was is that she basically, I don't know if there wasn't really exact, like, diagnosis for what she had, but basically what it was kind of described of is like a developmental disability. And so you see how you get the first like chapters about like the parents and how they met, but then you get to see how Rosemary was treated by her family, and particularly by her mother. And well, her family was mostly kind, but her mother kind of had this mood of to the people, you need to seem like you are normal, basically. Which was interesting, like, and of course, since all this happened in like the 1930s, 40s, and like all that stuff, it's really interesting to see how mental health and like basically different facilities have like grown up in this kind of way, and see how far back and see how there was no really a lot of resources for Rosemary back in the day. And I thought that was very interesting. I think that this is it was really good in audiobook. I do recommend the audiobook. I think that this is a good book for really anybody to read. And it felt very researched, but what I liked about it is that it didn't read to you like it was a textbook. I felt like it read to me like it was a novel, and I love those kind of nonfiction, so that's why. I gave it 1 star because at some points it kind of dragged a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, 4 stars. I really recommend this nonfiction book. Time for my first 5-star. So I finished this on January 17th, and I read Out by Natsuno Kurino. This is basically a domestic thriller set in Japan. There are 4 women. We have Masako. Fuck, what are their names? It mainly follows Masako, but we do also have 3 other women. They all live of course in Japan, and they work at a bento box factory. And all these women, they're different ages, like different lifestyles, different economic situations, and it's really interesting to learn about them. But there's one little accident that happens with one of the women, and it spirals this book out of control. This book is exactly 400 pages, and I was like, okay, I hope this doesn't drag, and it doesn't at all. There are a lot of characters you meet, but you get to know all of them in depth. Some more than others, of course, but you still get to know all of them so well. This book talks a lot about the inequality from women and men in Japanese society. This does take place in the 1980s, or is the late 80s, early 90s era, but it's so interesting how there's like very strict kind of gender roles and how women have to do all these different things, and it's very interesting to see that. It's also, you get to see a lot of ageism in this book, and seeing how being an older woman makes the women feeling older and stuff like that. And you do get to get different perspectives of males and females, and just kind of seeing how each one kind of interact with each other and interact with the world. And we had to read this for a class, for my horror class, even though it's like more of a thriller. It's like thriller horror, and apparently everyone else in my class, except me and like one other guy, hated the ending, but I loved the ending. I thought the ending was very realistic. And there apparently is a sequel to this book that I want to read, but it is not translated into English, which, can we start a GoFundMe for like people to start translating this woman's books, because they are so fantastic. I just want to read like her backlist. That it's translated in English, of course. But this book was so fantastic. I recommend this to everyone. I'm not a thriller reader. I'm not, but this was fantastic. I need more thrillers like this. If you guys know more for thrillers like this book, please let me know. This was great. I recommend. 5 stars. Next book I read was also very highly rated. I finished this on January 20th, and this is Jack of Hearts and Other Parts by R.C. Rosen. I gave this 4.5 stars. This book was just so... it was just a breath of fresh air. You follow Jack, and he is not one of the only kids at a school, but like he is like a talk of the town at his school. He is openly gay, and a lot of people basically start rumors and hear rumors and talk about his sex life, basically, and saying how he's like always having sex with this person and like threesomes and hot tubs and shit. And he doesn't get that. Like he's like, okay, some of the rumors are true, but some of them are like way far out there fetched. And so his friend Jenna comes up to him and say, hey, let's start, I want you to start a sex column on my blog, which is separate from the school, and basically call it Jack of Hearts, because his name is Jack, and basically people write in saying like they're either sex advice, love advice, and all these things. And throughout the book you actually see people's like answer questions to him and see his answers, and I thought that was very awesome and interesting. The reason why I love this book is that I feel like this is the first YA book that was so sex positive, and I love that about it. I feel like when you read YA, they either never talk about the aspect of sex, or they talk about it in a demonizing way, saying, oh, sex is bad, Christianity and stuff. But this book addressed that. There are characters like one of his best friends saying, I want to wait until the moment is special. And he's like, you know what, I get that. that's just not me. But he's like, I get that. And then it's very interesting. There is a lot of like diversity in this book as well, which is always awesome. But I also like how I hate the tropes in some YA books where there's an absent parent, and in this book there's not. You do see a lot of conversations between Jack and his mom, and it's very nice. It's nice to see that because his mom is a single mom, and you see how they like interact and talk. But I'm gonna say, if you're expecting a light, fluffy romance, this book is not that. There is a whole plot talking about kind of like a stalker, and you kind of get a reveal at the end. So I guess it's like a contemporary mystery sort of thing. I guess that would be that subgenre. Next book I read was a manga, actually, and it was really disappointing. I was expecting to really like this manga, but I really didn't. I read Sailor Moon Volume 1, and I gave this 2 stars. I felt like the manga it felt so rushed in 200 pages. Like, so many things happen, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And each chapter felt very episodic, which I'm totally fine with that in like a novel, but when it's in a manga, I feel detached from the story. I feel like I shouldn't be reading it, I guess. Like, I felt like after each chapter, I'm like, oh, alright, cool, I can go do something else, you know? I like to be gripped at the end of each chapter, and I wasn't gripped. It just, again, each chapter felt like an episode, which translates well in the anime, not so well in the manga. I think this is one of those cases where the anime is just better than the manga, but that's okay. I'm sad that I didn't like this manga series. I'm not going to continue with it, but hey, I recommend the anime. Alright, next manga I actually read Magi, the Labryinth of Magic, Volume 3, and I gave this 4 stars. This was really good. I'll tell you right now that the manga and the anime is such a good adaptation of each other. They are very similar. So sometimes, you know, manga, they can stray right off course, but this one is just so close to this manga is so close to the anime, it's scary. And when I'm watching this, I'm like, the dialogue at a lot of points is similar, the exact shots are similar, like, it's crazy. But I loved it for it, and I love this series. I love this manga series. And the next one I read, I read a lot of manga this month actually, which is All Out Volume 1, and I gave this 4 stars. This is awesome. I love this manga series. So basically what this is about, totally forgot all the characters' names, but it is basically a sports, it talks about rugby basically, and it's very interesting. You usually don't see manga series about like rugby. It's usually like baseball, tennis, like swimming, other things, but rugby was very interesting to read about, and I really like the characters. I think it's cool. It's just a nice fun time. There's 12 volumes, and I plan on reading every volume because they're so good. But yes, I recommend this highly. And the last book I read was a 5-star book. So good, and so good. It's The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. This was such a good book. I basically read this entire thing in a day. And it was just so good. Basically what this is about is that there is this woman named Nicole, and she was dating this guy named Fisher. It was Fisher, yeah, Fisher. And they had been only dating for so much. She wasn't really feeling the relationship very much, and they go to a Dodger game, and she basically gets proposed to on the Jumbotron, and she was like, the fuck, why are you proposing to me? We ain't like that. So she turns him down, and she basically gets flooded by tons of people because of all these things. While this is happening, a few seats up, Carlos, which is our male protagonist, him and his sister are there watching the game, and they watch all this run down. And they feel like they need to help this woman, so they help her get out of there, and they give her a ride home, and love sparks between these two, and it was so good. I think that it was very interesting and very it's so good. One aspect that I didn't realize was a big aspect of this was food. There was a huge food aspect of this book. Like, they are either going to tacos together, or they are making, I'm trying to remember, I think they were making carnitas at the end. They're always making something, or they're eating something, or it's just fun. They also love wine, which, you know what, Same.
Bitch, me too! The fuck?
But this book is just great. It's such a cute romance, and I really recommend this book. It was so good. If you are doing Blackathon, read this book, because this would totally count for would totally count for the challenge of read a romance featuring a black main character and maybe someone from the other character can either be black or a person of color. And he is, I believe, Mexican, so perfect! I actually bought this to read for Blackathon, but I literally couldn't wait, so I read it all in a day, and I do not regret my decision. But yeah, this was fantastic. Highly recommend. New favorite. But yeah, those were all the books that I have read in January. Let me know what you guys read in January, or if you read any of these books. I feel like I read a wide variety of genres and very little YA, but you know what? I'm cool with that. I'm very much cool with that. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. I will see you in another video. Goodbye.